If everybody's sort of ready, then let's see how everybody was feeling things.
My timing, you said 10 minutes for every exercise. My timing wasn't very good because
okay.
I followed it down to sequence.
It's just an average, right? Timing is
but the sequence, so it's first concentrate on Chen, Gong with swallowing.
No, the first one is Gong goes in, Gong goes out. Right? Then the Gong goes in, and then the Gong is being connected in the Dantian, and then from there is the Gong is opened and closed. So you close all your senses. So no more breathing at that moment, and at the moment.
Did some ripening in between.
Yes, ripening in between. Yes. So first, after you do that, you first open and close. Then you ripening, right? Then at the moment when you go from there, you go to the left side and the right side, and then you do ripening again, or you can do ripening between the left side and the right side too, and at the end you do ripening again. I'm currently recording a breath yoga class. This is a particular kind of Daoist practice. This is a Wednesday evening, and I am going to tell you in this video, after I'm ready, about the process of aging. This class is called the No Death Yoga, and the class is meant to help you stop the aging process. And in this class that we are going to talk about in this lesson, in this video, we are going to talk about something very similar. In fact, this video has actually several purposes, and I will go through these purposes in one time. And with these different purposes, then it becomes clear what the topic of the video is. Action with the outside world in your experience. So you're a little bit like in the Chinese creation myth of Pangu. Pangu was basically an egg that didn't have any senses, so it didn't know about the outside world, it only knew itself. So this is basically what you try to do. So you can call this the Pangu state. The first topic we're going to discuss today is the Yangshen topic. Yangshen is usually not exactly what people think of it, and we're going to talk about it more extensively. And then, because we're going to talk about the Yangshen in relationship to anti-aging properties, and the relationship therefore between Yangshen and Neidan, and that they should always be learned in conjunction with each other. Because of the influence of spa medicine on Yangshen, Yangshen has transformed itself completely in the last 30-40 years, and certainly in the last decennia it has been changing a lot. So one of the moments that we have here is the opportunity to reset the link between Yangshen and long life. Another part I want to introduce with you is the course that I created for parents and for everybody basically, to teach us about the 15 stages of life. And that is from the moment of birth, and actually the period also before birth, but that is a stage in itself, and the period at birth, which is a stage on itself, and then the 15 stages that are going to follow in the rest of your life. And that is then talking about the first 15 times 7 or 8 years. In this course, the beginning part is of course about parenting, because parenting is a very important part, and you have to prepare properly before you become a parent. If you become a parent by accident, you're not properly prepared, so as a result of that you have to quickly catch up. So this course is also very suitable for that, because then at least you have a handle for which to do this. It is also part of Yangshen. Yangshen is also about parenting, because good parenting leads to healthy people, healthy children, healthy adults who also think healthy, and as a result of that they live long lives. And you have to understand that for Yangshen theory, a life of 180 years should be normal. And it means that people do a lot of things wrong in their life, as a result of which they don't become older than between, depending on the place of the world where you are, between say 50 and 89, 59, 95. When we look at these things, we have to contrast Yangshen and the learning process of how to live your life. We have to contrast with the commercial things, where everybody is continuously showing how to neutralize the appearance of aging, but not necessarily the aging process itself. So you can use makeup, surgery, you can use all kind of other means, injectables and so on. So you can hide all kind of things, but the actual anti-aging is not taking place. So acupuncture, also massage, they can help you very much with anti-aging, but the best result is at the moment when you go one step further. And we will talk about that later on in this video because it's a core subject. And that's the fourth thing, because we're also going to talk about a whole range of programs that I have available for you or for anybody, and that is actually all part of Chinese medicine traditionally, and that every Chinese medicine practitioner should learn before they actually start doing medical therapy. And that means that the way of education of all the schools worldwide, and especially in the West, they are actually turning things in the wrong direction. They make Yangshan a specialization after the fact, while in fact they should make Yangshan a specialization before the fact. So they should first learn Yangshan and then learn Chinese medicine. And of course, if you are practicing Chinese medicine, you don't like to hear what I'm saying, because that means that the school where you may be very proud of has taught you the wrong way to do things. Because unfortunately, by doing things that way as they did, they actually taught you a bunch of practices that you don't really understand. Because the Yangshan is the learning process of understanding life. And if you don't understand life, how can you understand disease? It's a very slow process. I mean, I think most people for this process, they take the longest from any exercise that I know. Yeah, so don't worry about it. It can easily take 2 to 4 years or so to go through this part. So in the beginning times when I explained this and he's doing the breathing, and it's with every student exactly the same. Rami was like that, Chris is like that, you are like that, Claudio was like that. In the first instance, when I start talking about this gongfu thing, and they're like, oh, interesting. But then at the moment when they have to experience in their body, you know, you see the frustration, like, because they're like, no, that's not what we're looking for every time. So with Elizabeth also, and my body sometimes when I look at students is like annoying, oh, not again, this whole process. Yeah, but on the other hand, you know, I fully understand how people get completely frustrated about the process because it is really very difficult. I only have to remember my own process in trying to learn this when I was in Wuhan, when I was learning this. And my teacher saying it, and I'm like, okay. And the secret is that in Daoist classics for medicine, Yangshan is usually used in the same way like we use healthcare. That means that Yangshan, life cultivation, as it is usually translated, and what it also means for the Chinese culture means healthcare. And we have to look at it in that perspective, and we have to look at what in history was being meant with that and how it is different than now. Because now, at this moment, it's more something of a convenience place where you go to get like nice massage or beauty treatment or anything like that. And all these kind of things, they are aspects of Yangshan, but they are not Yangshan per se. So when we go deep into that, you have to understand that Yangshan has 3 major aspects. One is preventative care, the second part is curative care, and the third part is basically the management of your appearance. And your appearance is not just the beautiful skin that you have, that is part of it, but the beautiful skin has to be a representative of what's happening on the inside. So if it is not good on the inside and it looks good on the outside nonetheless, that means it is not a matter of Yangshan, it is basically a part of what is called aesthetic treatment. When I look at the program of the AOC Dowland as it has been developed for my PhD studies in the past and for the PhD studies that I'm just now starting, then you can see that this program is going a little bit against the grain of history, because in the period of the Cultural Revolution, China abandoned everything traditionally Chinese, and they created this new thing which is part of what is called the New China. And the European Union and the Americas, they have all played their part in the development of that. And now when we invite Chinese things to come be done in our countries, we think, these are authentic Chinese things. While in fact, we first colonialized these areas. Although we didn't conquer China, we did have a huge imprint on that culture. And we changed their way of thinking, we changed their language, we changed their philosophy, we changed their way of judging things, because everything that comes from there is based on Hegelian science. And as a result of that, it is not the same form of logic as they were using in the period before. The rationality of Confucianism and the rationality of Taoism is not the rationality of Hegelian science, and it is also not the rationality of modern allopathic or biological science as we use here in the Western, on which we judge Chinese medicine usually, and which is of course false, because it is not biomedicine, so you cannot judge it by biomedical standards. You cannot say per se that our Western way of thinking is superior to the other one without basically insulting the other culture. And as a result of that, you can see that in a democratic society, all cultures are equal. It is not possible that there is a culture which is of less value than another. You see the same thing happening in religious aspect. People sometimes think that their religion is better than another one, but it is anti-democratic. It is authoritarian to think so, and that means basically that you are not following democratic rules. And since we are still living in democracy, even though in some cases it seems to be a little bit far-fetched to say that, it still should be remembered that it says in our constitutions that we have religious freedom, and we have also therefore a freedom of science, because science also falls in the category of knowledge systems, and knowledge systems, they are a way of believing. And you can develop all kinds of things and say like, but these are facts, you can measure them, which is true. But the same thing can be said of Taoism, with the way how they do things. They say, well, it is true, if you practice this, you can have that belief system, you can have that experience, and that can be truth. And at the moment when you're a Buddhist, or you're a Confucian, or you're a Hindu, or you're Islamic, all these systems, they are having their own tools to help you to understand what is true and what is not true, within their own framework. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you for being so frustrated. The main problem, therefore, with Chinese medicine is the way of education. The modern education of Chinese medicine takes place in huge buildings, small windows, with a whiteboard and a teacher that tells you basically how it is. There is no real debate in there. There is no real discussion, and it is going actually completely against the way how Chinese medicine in the past was being taught. Sure, for a large degree, for a large part, medicine was part of the Daoist community, and that means that people came to study within a particular region with a particular master, and they became his disciples or her disciples if it was a female doctor, which did happen, but didn't happen as often as it would be able to happen nowadays. So at the moment when people became disciples of that student or that teacher, then at that moment they were trained in the method of that teacher. That means that in another area with another master, maybe they had another method. Yeah, so that means that the texts that you read, which are from various areas, various times, and so on, they have mutual disagreements because they were written within different conceptual stages. And by judging them in the way how we judge our Western medicine, everything has to be unified in one whole. That means you don't really understand Chinese medicine. In my PhD research and in my master research, when I was looking into the way of education of Chinese medicine, how it was being done in the past, you could really see that the responsibility of the teacher for the student and the student for the teacher and the material that they are learning is of a completely different kind, and maybe even higher morality than what they have nowadays in schools, because nowadays it is seen in the same method as, or in the same framework as regular medicine, and that means that it is mostly seen as an earning model. You are part of an industry and you are going to try to make a living with what you are studying, and you're not necessarily helping people, even though maybe in your heart you feel like you would like to. That is something that is very important, and it's much more important in Chinese medicine than in Western medicine. You are not supposed to harm somebody with your medicine in Western medicine ethics, but in Chinese medicine you are trying to make somebody an immortal. And so your task is to get people on that training path, to try to get themselves together and try to get into that program of taking themselves by the hand and becoming a long-living, maybe even immortal being. This means that when we talk about anti-aging in the modern context, we're actually not talking about the same context as in the past. When we talked about anti-aging in the past, specifically in Chinese culture, because we talk about Chinese culture and the past, then we were saying that the anti-aging method was there to make people an immortal. And at the moment when they would become an immortal, they would be successful. And immortal here means this period of 180 years that I already proposed several times. That is already pretty old in relationship to what we do nowadays. And it means that you see more from history, you can also gather more wisdom, and you can also learn more methods to maybe live even longer than that. That is the first aim is to get to this 180. Once you get to this 180, we'll see whatever comes after. The reality is, of course, that there are nowadays a lot of methods where people will try to make people live longer, usually by means of chemistry or stimulants by any other means, or by putting people's brains into a jar and combine it with all kind of electrodes to read the brain, so that you can have like a, I don't know, super brain that is then doing thinking. But it actually all dehumanizes people, because it allows people to stay in the context of their faulty existence. And the whole agenda of Yangshen, and in that sense, in the same breath also of Taoism, is to help people to develop the right kind of morality. Because in Taoism, Chinese medicine, from old time onward, they said, if you are not a moral person, then at that moment you are running behind your desires, your anger and your fears, and as a result that you will age fast, you become sick, and you will eventually die. And the point is therefore for Yangshen to help you get past that stage and start developing yourself towards what is called the symmetry between affinity and aversion. Because in the idea of Yangshen, the idea is that if you step into your aversions, then at that moment you're going to be judgmental about things in a negative sense, and you're going to be led in that judgmentality by your anger, your fears and your desires. And from these three different kind of root feelings or emotions, or you can say the 7 emotional effects can come about, and one of them is, personal love for a person, where you want to have somebody, you want to own somebody. So all the things like jealousy, gluttony, all these kind of things that we call sins in Christianity, they are also the result of these 3 feelings. And at the moment when you go into the opposite direction, you have affinity for things, and at that moment you just feel comfortable and at home with everything. And as a result of feeling comfortable and at home with everything, you don't have to have a judgment, because the judgment is only just to be, and that's it. There's no not to be. The not to be is the aversion choice. When we look at current anti-aging methods, the main ones are probably injectables and surgery. And if you look at the next images, you see some botched surgery treatments. And after that, you will see some botched injectables treatments. People can disfigure themselves a lot because of the operation, because with every operation or every injectable, you alienate yourself a little bit from the original natural form of your face that has been growing onto you over time. And then not to say about all the other damages that can happen, the cutting of nerves, the internal bleedings as a result of surgery, the paralysis that can happen in your face, because let's be fair, the injectables are made from diseases which lead to paralysis, and also the damage that can happen to your nervous system, which can eventually lead to more or less psychotic attacks, for which there still is not really a solution. And there is a minority of people who get to suffer these kind of things, but the fact that they can happen, that is already bad enough. So with all the methods that people are finding out, the scraping of the skin, the masks and everything like that, everything is very superficial, and it doesn't really lead to the kind of change that you want, because you want to reverse your aging and you want to become younger. And doing this with yourself, of course, is what people want to do, because they want to save money and they want to go buy a product that they can use at home in the hope that it actually works. And that is also the reason why there's always a market for these products, because you walk from one product to another product, because simply none of them is satisfactory enough to stay with your whole life, because you see all these products being sold by young people and not by old people. And as a result of that, you can see that these same young people, when they grow older, even when they do face yoga or face massage or something like this, you see that they gradually become older, notwithstanding the fact that they are using all these methods themselves. You can see that happening because it is a biological thing that happens from the inside out, not from the outside in. So that happens from the inside out and not from the outside in. What is the most important thing I probably want to say is that people very often don't understand that the reason why Chinese medicine exists is the wish to not die. The early emperors, they were being curious about medicine and so on, because they wanted to cure themselves of the only disease that really matters, namely that what makes us die. And as a result of using all kinds of methods, from balming, putting jade tablets on their body, and so on, they hoped that they would eventually live in a sort of immortal realm. And then you get all these kind of spiritual things, that you become like an angel or a Buddha, or you become something more special than your mundane life. And of course, that is nice to believe, but like Zhang Sanfeng says, no matter what these things are, if they are true or if they are not true, in the end it comes down to how you are living, and if that life is going to lead to the kind of fulfillment that you want to have. And that fulfillment biologically is always long life, and that's what it is, what puts us people separate from animals, because animals usually do not have the conceptual awareness of the fact that, well, insight in that they're aging, but they do not have the conceptual insight into the solution of the problem of aging, and we can come up with things. So I'm talking about the long press. So at the moment when you take the long press, right, you don't sink into your heels, so you don't relax, you don't put your hips inside at the same time, you don't keep your back straight, and you don't keep your neck straight, and at that moment you will lean forward, right? So then the strength from your hind leg is not being pushed forward. So this one is pushing forward. You just try to make this move. And so then you can see this is a push, right? But this is also a push. See, all that comes from here. So the Jing is the connection between this heel and the back of your hand. When we are looking at Chinese medicine as a whole, and in extension all the cultures that are influenced by Chinese medicine, then we see that it all started with meditation on ourselves, and meditation with the parts that are making up our consciousness, like our senses, and the different spirits of our body, as Daoists call them, and also the way how we move. So the way how we experience ourselves and the way how we move, these are two things that are very important, but also the impact that we have on our environment. Daoists usually say that you should try to live with as little impact as possible, like what some Daoists say, you should walk without trace. I don't know if you are old enough to remember the series Gongfu with David Carradine.
Your path were upon rice paper. It is said, a Shaolin priest can walk through walls. Look for, he cannot be seen. Listen for, he cannot be heard. Touched, he cannot be felt. This rice paper is the test. Fragile as the wings of the dragonfly, clinging as a cocoon of the silkworm. When you can walk its length and leave no trace, you will have learned.
One of the things that he had to do as a test to get out of the Shaolin monastery was based on that principle, namely that he had to walk on rice paper without leaving foot traces in the rice paper, which was very difficult, and many could do that. That means you're basically floating through life. You're not really making an imprint. While in our culture, we want to make as much impact as possible. And because of wanting to make as much impact as possible, we also do a lot of damage. So as an environmentalist, the first thing you learn is, okay, how can we reduce our impact? It also means that in our daily life, we have to reduce our impact, and for us, ourselves as human beings, our emotional impact on others reflects also in our dependencies on these other people, and the dependencies of these people on us, which help us create all kinds of problems through which we eventually also age and die. When we look at Chinese medicine, then you see that meditation, movement practices, and proper nourishment, these are important. And proper nourishment is not just because you try to avoid letting other beings suffer, whether it's plant life or animal life or anything else, but you try to maximize the effect of everything that you do by trying to live as pure as possible, not by just eating expensive natural products or something, but by eating as little as possible, period. So at the moment when you eat as little as possible, period, then at that moment your body, of course, is continuously utilizing that what is too much inside you. You reduce the impact of your poop on the environment. You only need to drink in time, of course, and because of eating less, you have a more compact and pure kind of poop coming out, but you also need to eat less, and you have more result from that what you eat. So this is a very important part. This triumvirate of meditation, basically Kung Fu fitness, what I call it, and Kung Fu eating, so food medicine. This is the root of Chinese medicine. And this we can already see from the oldest documents in graves, where they spent attention on eating, on exercising, and on meditation concept of the spiritual realm as they see it at that time. When we go look further beyond that, then things like acupuncture, things like dietary medicine, really like specialized medicines, then it becomes important to understand what you need to eat. For instance, Chinese medicine in the past was based on the eating of zhou. Zhou is rice porridge. And rice porridge is a very good foundation, both for your stomach, because it helps you to rehydrate your body in case you lost some liquids, but also for your skin, because like your saliva in your mouth, it has particular kind of enzymes in there, and they nourish your skin because basically they're collagen and they are sugars. So very good combination. But it is also a great vehicle to absorb the etheric oils from all kind of ingredients, which you can make as a soup, and then you mingle it in your rice porridge to have a better effect on your biology. So next time when you go to a Chinese medicine practitioner and they give you one of these terrible soups, you have to understand that this terrible soup has to be mixed with the nice sweetness of a rice porridge, because at that moment you actually have a better effect from that. And so the soup can be separated from the branches, of course. So that's a freebie, right? That's a freebie, so that's great. At the moment, when you think of it like that way, then you can see that the effect of the medicine will be much better, but it also will be much more soft on your body. And as a result of that, you can implement the correct eating habits that you need for proper eating every day. So rice porridge every day means that you're always going to be rehydrated enough, especially when you live in a warm country. If you eat a lot of it, you'll become fat. So don't worry about it. You should not eat too much of it. But a nice bowl of rice porridge can be pretty nourishing. If you, like me, you don't like to eat meat, then of course you have to have a variety of nuts, mushrooms, and so on. If you don't like these, or you have allergies for peanuts, for instance, then at that moment you have to find a solution. You can try, if you dissolve the peanut oil inside your or the peanut fibers inside your porridge, that it then is better to eat. You can try. I'm not saying that you have to take that risk, but it is an option that you have in just small dosages, and very gradually maybe try to increase the dosage. That's a very important part. Then after that, facial massage, sculpting of the fat tissues of your face. You have to start doing that on a young age, so that you can keep the fat chambers of your room, of the face and of the body as a whole, in the proper order. Every time when you are gathering fat, like for instance now with Christmas and New Year, other celebrations that might be coming in your life in the coming time, then every time you eat pie, you eat meat, you eat sausages and whatever kind of stuff, maybe you drink alcohol, all these kind of things, besides killing your brain and closing up your heart for the suffering of other beings, and being addictive also at the same time, you also grow fat. So one way or the other, that sculpting in your body has to be done and redone all the time. And if you can do it by yourself, that is of course the best way. So for this you need a particular kind of proper self-massage training to do so. And I'm busy developing this from a course that I usually give class-wise, but now at this moment I'm making a video course on that. And just follow me and sign up to hear when it is ready, so that you can actually actively follow this. The beauty and skincare module that I already created for people some time ago, they have all kind of tips and tricks for taking care of yourself, also all kind of skin products that you can use for your skin and for your face, but also for eating. And as a result of that, you also increase the quality of your being as a whole. Next to that, at the moment when you are beyond the stage where preventative measures are still good, then at that moment you go to curative methods. And then at that moment you already quickly come to a combination of acupuncture and massage. And sometimes when you're really getting sick and aging, you might have to eat also specialized herbal concoctions to help you, vitalize, so that you can reconstruct yourself. Because if your organs are not strong enough, if your movements are not strong enough, it is very difficult to maintain anything like youthfulness. Youthfulness is actually the capacity of the body to keep on repairing itself, and that usually stops at about 30-35. So that means that before 35 you have to be busy in a program, preferably to make sure that you get well and strong and healthy. At the moment when you are beyond this page, you have to just work harder, and you have to be working more constructive, so you have to have a right kind of environment. Personally, I would advise everybody to come study at the Yangsheng program for 2 years to have a manual for everything in their life. But many people don't have the time to do so. So as a result, that we do also these kind of videos and other kind of programs to make sure that you get an idea about that. And there might be some big project on the way very soon to help you further with that. But for now, let's stick with this part, and I hope this actually really helps. You can be one of those too, so just sign up for the courses and make an impact on your community so that you can also support your community in becoming healthier. We are working on the development of a more broad Daoist kind of healthcare system. Not that you have to be a Daoist for that, but the idea is that you are being aware of the principles behind that, and you can practice them for yourself, and you can reflect on that and use them in the way how you deal with other people in your community, your family, and so on, to make sure that everybody benefits from your wisdom. And the IOC Daoland is only a vehicle for that. And Yangsheng, in that sense, is just barely enough to get to the point where you could become an immortal, because in the Yangsheng training you have to learn Neidan, and this is actually what makes it work. When you want more information, just contact me, follow the links in the material below the video, and I'll be happy to answer your questions if you have any.